Hi, everybody who's coming in. I'm Suzanne, your fearless leader for the next hour in Getting Back to Joy. I see you coming in at the top of the hour. That's great. And if you want to pop in a little hello on the chat, that would be lovely. We'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to say hi, maybe tell us where you're calling from, and we will get started in just a minute. I want to let as many people drift in as possible in the next few minutes. So if you see the sidebar and you want to type in a little hello, go right ahead. I'm really glad you're here. I think this is going to be a powerful webinar. That's my goal. We'll just give it one more minute, and tell us. We'll get rolling in just a minute. I'm really glad you made it. Sometimes the Google Plus Hangout on Air format is tricky for people, or it's confusing. You made it! All right. And I really like, one reason I enjoy doing this is because I really love this chat function that runs down the sidebar, in which you can let me know what you think of what I'm saying. And throughout the webinar, I will ask questions for you to think about. And you may want to pop a response into the chat bar on the side. And if you do, I would love to see what's on your mind, and I'll do my best to acknowledge it. The next hour, I will be doing some chatting, and I will lead you in a guided visualization that is, my hope, will help you get greater clarity about the purpose of your pain in your life at this time. So why don't we begin? As many of you know, my name's Suzanne Falter, and I have gotten into this work. I was an author writing about joy for many years. Some of you know me from the marketing world, but before that, I was actually an author. I did 2 books with major publishers and did a lot of speaking in the US and Canada about joy and about getting back to joy by pursuing your dreams. And then my whole life went through a very radical shift in 2012, and I ended the marketing business that I had gotten into. And I was kind of looking around for the next thing, and I thought it probably was related to writing and going back to the joy work. And in fact, what happened was that I lost in very short order my relationship, my home, the business ended, and then my 22-year-old daughter Teal died very suddenly of a medically unexplainable cardiac arrest. She wanted to be a healer in her life, and she was given the opportunity to really do healing work in a disembodied form from the other side, essentially. At least that's what I hear from many people who've been visited by Teal since she passed away. My experience was that I had to go through radical healing myself because I had really lost my way. I had really drifted away from my heart. I had found myself caught in a relationship that was toxic, in a life that wasn't true, in a lot of loneliness and pain, in disorganization and chaos, and I had to get my act together, like immediately. And as she was dying, I was sitting by her hospital bed, and I knew it was my call to action. I knew this was my time when I needed to really step up and become the leader that I was meant to be. That my life had really drifted so far off track that there was no way that I was going to even heal this by myself, but I was going to have to get help with it. And I knew that there was something coming, some kind of new work, and I wasn't really sure what it was. But I knew it had something to do with helping people. And as I moved through the following 2 years till about last spring, I started to really understand how bad grief is, how we get stuck in it, and how little resources, how few resources are available, not for moving through the grief, because there's a lot of that out there through hospices and grief counselors and such, but in finding your way to the purpose of the grief. And I started to do that work for myself, and as I did, I found that there is a larger purpose to the grief. And it taught me how to love and care for myself in an entirely new way. So I've really been called forth to help people on this path when life falls apart, to find the purpose in the pain and use it and learn from it and build from it and build on it. And this has really become my life's work. By the way, welcome to all of you. And if anybody wants to comment on what I'm talking about, even sharing your own experiences or whatever, it would be great. Thanks to Alex and Helena and Kamala and Joan who've already made comments. That's right on. Because really, what I know the truth is that, excuse me, this entire period we live in now is really about getting into community and helping each other become the people we are meant to be. This is the age we live in. We live in an age of community, and the internet makes it implicitly possible to really move forward and really share yourself in a way you never have with people. Technology has supported that, even though at the same time we may become more isolated in hunkering down over our screens. Another subject. At any rate, I say your life cracks open and falls apart for a reason. It falls apart because you are being called forth to change in some elemental way, that there's something out of whack, something is out of balance. And I like to think of it as we are aligned in life, we are organized, we are put into We are given the opportunity at birth, and we are at birth in perfect alignment. We know what works, we know what doesn't, we feel good when things are in alignment, and we immediately feel terrible if they don't, and we let everybody around us know it. Think of a baby crying, right? But as we move through life, we begin to tolerate things differently, and even perhaps put up with a lot of circumstances in our life that don't serve us, that aren't what we want, but we buy into them because of our fear and our beliefs. My goal in this call is to help you start to learn where you might be out of balance and what the goal is, the purpose, the lesson, the healing that's available in whatever pain you're going through. And again, you may not have had dramatic circumstances like a child dying. You may feel frustrated and fed up and lost in your business, and like you just don't want to do this thing anymore, but you can't figure out the way around it. You may be feeling like you're under a little tight glass ceiling and you can't sort of push your way out of it. You may be feeling deeply sad because your one child moved off and went to college, or you might be going through a breakup or a divorce. Whatever it is, there's a lesson there for you. This is, in fact, the greatest opportunity of your life right here and right now. I think a lot of what we go through is also about perception. We perceive a crisis to be the worst thing that ever happened to us. But in fact, the truth is that it's all in our interpretation. Teal, at the end of her life, we had the privilege of going through her journals and really learning more about who she was. And she filled one of her journals with what she called channeled statements. And I remember when she started receiving these statements that just sort of came out of nowhere, and they seemed very wise. And she started writing them down, and she showed them to me. And she said, "What do you think, Mom? What do you think this is?" And I said, "Well, I don't really know what it is, but you better write them all down." And I'm really glad I did that, because I try to use some of her quotations in what I'm talking about in these calls. And the first one I want to share with you is this: you will have ups and downs, but there is no right or wrong, only your perceptions. That was a wonderful statement she got, and there's so much truth to it. Because we can begin this conversation by understanding that we may have given ourselves a radical interpretation about what has happened that doesn't leave a lot of room for relief or space or growth. It's the first thing to consider. Yeah, and thank you, friends who are commenting. If you've got more to share, I'd love to hear you. Yes, Alex, it is painful along the way. And I don't mean for 1 minute to deny the pain of what you're going through. So many times in my grief, I was, in fetal position on the bed sobbing for hours at a time. There's kind of no substitute for that. Yet I'll talk in a minute about other things we do around the management of that pain. Let's see. Okay. All right. Excuse me. So I want to talk about denial. It's actually great that we kind of segued into that, because the next piece of this, working our way back to joy, is really about sitting with the denial or the possibility of our own denial. Now, let me tell you my own experience with that. When Teal died, I immediately went into efficient mother mode. And this is a common experience for people who lose kids. You have to deal with radical things you never thought you'd have to deal with. So a whole part of your psyche shuts down. And anybody who's been through any kind of loss, particularly around trauma, will have a certain helpful denial that kicks in. And it's helpful because your psyche is essentially protecting you from the floodgates of emotion just pouring through you and racking you. That's not always useful. So your psyche begins to, titrate just how much grief is allowed to come in, and the rest will be denial. For a full year, even more than a year, I kept thinking I could call my daughter. And anybody who's lost a loved one probably has had this experience. You feel like you can pick up the phone and have a chat. Or I see something and I think, oh, I should get that for Teal. She'd love that. It was just on some level incomprehensible that she didn't exist anymore, that she was just gone. You know, I kept thinking in some way that she was on a long trip. So that's the denial of shock and grief. But there's another level of denial, which I also think is very important, that keeps us from that place of alignment. And that is this feeling of, I can't handle my emotion, so I'm going to do my best to just block it out. I'm going to become very busy. I'm going to throw myself into a project. I'm going to worry about everybody else around me and keep, developing their pain for them. I'm going to allow myself to fall apart? Maybe not. We also pick up addictive behaviors. We find ourselves eating a lot. We find ourselves shopping a lot. We find ourselves completely getting obsessed with online games like Words with Friends. I did that. I don't think any of it's bad, but it's not useful after a certain point. The grief groups all say you should get that pint of Ben & Jerry's and eat it if it makes you feel better. That's fine. I think people have to do what they have to do. But I want to suggest that when you're ready to really find the purpose in the pain and get back to life and emerge, and it may be a little sooner than you're actually ready to, even at that point, before you're ready to, it's useful to start to see if there's some way in which you are denying the pain from surfacing and keeping it at bay. And if you are, it's understandable. It's completely understandable. And to the degree that you can begin to tolerate your emotions, it's great to let them in a little bit at a time. Because it's in the allowing yourself to feel the reality of what's going on that you can really begin to integrate the lessons. I had to do this over time. My daughter died in August, and by October, I wanted to be back at work. And I was launching a program in the end of September that was actually about to launch when she died. I just put her off for a month, and I said, okay, done. I'll be back to work, let's get going. We have business to do here. And I launched this program, and it was insane. It was just insane. And, I remember a business coach, a really good friend who's a great business coach. She really said to me, you have to stop. You really have to stop. I'm saying this to you as your good friend, but also as your business coach. It's just nuts. Can you really teach right now? And I couldn't. I didn't even really believe in the program I created. It was something that, it's not the work I'm doing now, and it was something else that I just kind of glommed onto in my intense desire to be busy and my intense desire to make something happen. Don't forget, I was already going through great loss before Teal died. So this was going to be this certain thing that I had cooked up. And yes, Joan, to answer your question, Teal was not my only child. I also have a wonderful son named Luke, who's 20 years old, lives in Vermont, and is a rock climber and a farmer. Thanks for asking. I'll tell you something. It's as if the pain was waiting for me patiently. And when I stopped working in November of 2012, I said, I'm going to give myself 2 months, and I better be over this in 2 months because I have work to do. Well, I actually took better part of 2 years off. And when I say off, I gradually began to implement work. But what I found was I just felt weak. I just felt disabled. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt dumb. I felt confused. I felt unable to make decisions. Let me know on the chat if you can relate to that. Because that experience is very, very common. Very, very common for people who are grieving. Yet at the same time, that denial was there, man. I kept thinking I'm about to get back to work. I can do this. But I wasn't. I wasn't ready. I even had some speaking opportunities. I would get up in front of audiences and I would just fall apart. Like nobody wanted to see that. And I didn't want to deliver that. I wasn't ready to share the gift in my own grief. You know? All right, let's see where we're at. I would love to know if anybody out there, and you can tell me in your chat, how's this landing for you about denial? Can you relate to what I'm saying about denial? Do you have a way of going into denial? And again, you know, it can simply be by being very efficient, and yet at night, in the middle of the night, that's really where the rubber meets the road. That's where you begin to know if you're truly expressing yourself fully. You know, what are you thinking about in the middle of the night? Are you falling apart in the middle of the night? Do you have this experience that when you wake up, you have to put on the happy suit, or lose yourself in work or screens or food or gambling or booze or drugs or whatever it is, you know? Yes, okay, good. I'm glad to hear that this is resonating for you. Because really, reality's not bad. You know, I'm going to actually say that reality and embracing reality and allowing yourself to sit with it is perhaps the goal. Even though it's messy, even though it's disorganized, here's the question. Can we allow ourselves to fall apart? Can we allow ourselves to just fall apart? Where are we going? Are we going towards a model of I must look perfect all the time? Or are we going towards a model of I want to be in the world in a way that makes me feel seen, heard, and understood? Because don't forget, if you're in denial and you're shutting down a lot of emotional presence, you're not present. You are sitting with your interpretation of what you should be. Now, I say this as a recovering perfectionist. If I had done this webinar a year ago and I didn't have absolutely everything perfect, and I didn't have hundreds of people clamoring to get on the chat stream, and I didn't have an elaborate PowerPoint presentation set up and have mastered all the technology about going back and forth between this format and that format, and do it without a single mistake the first time, I would not be happy. But the good news is, it's a gentler, kinder world where I live. And it's enough today to do a Google Hangout where I really share my heart and my well-organized content with you without slides. And, you know, we share some thoughts. I think that's really the point. Because without presence, without this sense of being really who we are, and it's okay to be who we are, we can't move ahead. We can't create anything. We cannot create anything. You know, I want to refer to another quotation of Teal's. This was in one of her notebooks. Happiness is happiness. Suffering is suffering. It's all just a lesson in living. Happiness is happiness. Suffering is suffering. It's all just a lesson in living. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because really, it takes the pressure off. It takes the pressure off. We don't have to be perfect today. We don't have to be anything other than our very messy selves. We don't have to be organized. We don't have to be competent. We don't have to be capable. We have to earn a living, but sometimes you can even make mistakes and earn a living. What I want to say is that beginning to take the pressure off is one of the most important things. We have to be able to embrace life in all of its messy integrity. And joy really follows that. Because that's when you finally tell the truth. That's when you really begin to get back in alignment. And let me tell you, your alignment is this code. It's this sense of instincts that really teaches you just what it is that you need. It's a sense of exactly. I'm making some notes in my outline here because I think this is a really good point. It's a sense of exactly what we need to feel fully alive. And you know, you don't get there in 5 minutes. Getting there is a process, but it's actually a really great process because it's extremely real. And that's what I'm inviting you to do, is become extremely real with me in this moment. I'd love to know your thoughts on what I'm talking about. So, one of the things I shared in inviting you to this webinar was that I was going to give you some thoughts about getting back to happiness. And I want to really preface this by saying that nobody can promise you happiness. You know that, and I know that. And anybody who does is pretty much full of hot air. You can't really get into happiness without understanding that it's an inside job, that it's up to you, and that I can't do it for you, but you can do it for you. I do have some things I've uncovered which really help me, and so I'll throw them out to you. By the way, I've got a question here from Helena. Let's take a minute with the chat. How do you experience the difference between believing you're ready and actually being ready? Good question. All right, so I should, and again, I don't have like a neat answer to this. What I know is that I kept thinking I was ready, and I kept trying things, and the universe would say, no, no, no. Example, in May of 2014, this year, I repackaged a very successful product I had sold in the past called the Joy Facilitators Training, and I launched it. And I launched it in my grieving state with a very complicated new technical interface for receiving the work. And I was not ready yet. The work appeared to be ready. The membership area appeared to be ready, but I could barely do what had to be done to put one foot in front of the other and deal with the pressure and deal with the deadline and deal with the launch. And, you know, it's an elaborate thing, launching a program or a product, except the way I'm doing it now, which is a whole lot more relaxed and a lot more simple. Then it was elaborate. And immediately there were tech problems in the membership area. There were so many tech problems that it was just kind of impossible for people to get into the member area and make it work. You know, even the passwords were all screwed up. And this was something that the person who had created this with me literally could not control. It was beyond her. And then, and this was really the sign from the universe, 5 different times that website got hacked in 2 months. Every time I would rebuild it, it would get hacked again. Hacking meaning erased, eradicated, and sometimes with a brazen brand of the hacker in place. 3 times while it was being rebuilt by 3 different techs, they had worms released into their computer that broke their computers. Okay, so that's a graphic sign from the universe that I'm not ready yet. So I backed off. I have not promoted the Joy Facilitators Training since then. I completely rebuilt the area. It really is functional now, but I'm not marketing that thing until I'm damn good and ready, because you know what? The universe is far more powerful than I am, and I will surrender. So I would say, Helena, take, dip a toe into the water, take a step forward, see what happens. See what happens. That's all you can do. Thanks for your good question. Yes, I am reading your mind, Kamala, just so you know. Okay, how to get back to happiness. First point, and I have a little list of points here, and the first one is to give yourself time. You know, I just demonstrated why that's important. Giving yourself time means you believe in your ability to heal. It means you are committed to healing in due time. It means you're not going to rush the process. It means it's actually okay to take as long as you want. Now, If I knew, little type A, hyperproductive Suzanne knew back in November 2012 that I was going to take 2 years off to grieve my daughter's death, I would have said, hell no. I would have said, that's not possible. But in fact, every step of the way, I was being guided. And, I actually got commissioned to write a novel. So I started writing this novel by a relative, a wealthy relative hired me to write a novel in a very gentle way, which has provided my income for quite a while now. And it just came to me. Things just came to me because I committed. And when you commit, things happen. And the universe listens, and you are able to find your way back to what you need. My premise is you will always have what you need, and the first thing you have to do to access that is to give yourself time. The second thing is to begin to really listen to yourself. Journal. Teal talked a great deal in the notebook she left behind about the body. Listen to your body, listen to your body, listen to your body. It was all over her notebooks. And Teal had epilepsy. Her death may have been caused by epilepsy, but it's really not known. And as a result, she was particularly tuned into her body because she needed to be, although she had a very, very moderate case of epilepsy. Your body is the greatest kind of arbiter of whether you're in alignment or not. I don't know about you, but when I'm doing too much, I kind of go around like this and I'm all tense and my shoulders get really, really tense. And then I start to get headaches. Some people feel indigestive problems. Some people just feel tired all the time. Some people have their back go out. I've done that too. The body will tell you when you're not in alignment. And will you listen? That's the key. You may have to stop doing so much. You may have to journal. You may have to sit down with a notebook and ask yourself, what is my body asking for? See, I really operate now from the premise that all of this information is in our hearts and our souls, and it's waiting to be listened to. I'm going to talk at the end of this webinar about my Back to Joy Healing Circle, which I'm going to share with you towards the end of this time together, because at first I want to do a visualization for you and some other things. But do know that one of the premises of that work is that when we ask ourselves questions, especially in community, in really deep ways, we can hear the answer. We can hear that answer, and it's really there. And you may have to spend more time alone if you don't, to really listen to yourself. I spent the better part of the last 2 years alone, and that was a very good thing for me. And I want to say that I spent an awful lot of time focused on other people, particularly in relationships. And when I stopped doing that, everything settled and became calm and really became functioning again. I also want to suggest that you've got an inner kid. Your inner child. A little Susie, that's what I call my inner child. And she's pretty fun. And I used to be like, oh, inner child. Because, I live in California and there's a lot of that kind of talk around here. And if you're not familiar with this concept, it's the idea that you've got a little kid running you who may be somewhat hurt and wounded from things that happened in the past, particularly if you've never paid much attention and really suppressed those impulses, and particularly if you've had a dysfunctional, traumatic childhood. You've got a little kid, and that little kid wants to be heard, and what better time to do it than when you're stopping and you're reassessing and you're moving ahead. That's the time to really bring your little child along. And this inner kid will make friends with you and will guide you and will help you find your way back to alignment, because you can talk to your inner child. You can close your eyes, just close your eyes and imagine, ask your little child to come out and play. Mine is often in this beautiful sunny field, a wildflower field on a farm that I grew up in Pennsylvania. And I can see that little child. I used to have a little old rusty dollhouse that sat under a big tree on our farm. And my inner child was often playing with that dollhouse and having a very nice time. these days. In the beginning, she was sort of pissed, like, be aware, she may be a little, or he may be a little annoyed if you haven't checked in at all or recently. Yes. Okay. Let's see. Okay, great. Joan asks, am I still grieving? Well, it's really interesting because my grief turned some kind of a really big corner about 3 months ago. The second year of losing my child was much worse than the first in terms of actually crying and really feeling depressed and sad and disabled. And it kind of peaked and crested in about June, and it sort of dissipated after that. By August, I started really feeling good, and now I'm speaking about it. I'm really moving out in the world, and a lot is happening very quickly as a result. And like very little was happening for me for those 2 years. Like very little came to me, very few offers to speak or any of the kind of things that I usually attract. On some level, I'll always grieve Teal. I'll always miss Teal, and every once in a while, I have a little cry about that. But so it goes. It's not terribly significant to me. Thanks for your question. Okay. Number 4, being willing to ask for help. If you're like me, you're a self-sufficient person. I got it. I don't need any help. Oh, what folly. I want to say that we do need help. We do need help a lot. We need support. We need to have other people around us to put their arm around us and ask us if we're okay. We need to have groups or people to talk to. I personally found my way to 12-step groups. I'd done 12-step recovery in my 20s. And when I came back to California after burying Teal, I didn't have a lot of friends. I had been in a very dysfunctional relationship, got out of it, looked around. I somehow didn't have a lot of friends. And I hadn't lived in California for more than 2 years. And somehow I buried myself in this relationship and forgotten my friends. So suddenly I needed a lot of support and a lot of friends. So I headed back to 12-step recovery. And it was one of the best things I've ever done, because not only did it put me back in touch with profound spirituality, it gave me a network of people who were extremely committed to supporting each other. And I was suddenly in the middle of them. They were all kind, and I had new friends. I also went to a grief support group through a hospice, which was free. All these things are available, depending on your situation. That grief support group was for people who've lost children, and I actually went to it in my second year of grief because I knew that I wasn't ready the first year. I could barely tolerate what was happening or talk about it, really, in some way. And I felt like the 12-steppers had my back, and that was enough. But then it got to the point where I really wanted to talk about Teal's death, which I couldn't really do in meetings with the programs I was in. So I started going to the grief group, and it was amazingly effective. I kind of couldn't believe how effective it was. And you may be suffering the loss of a parent or a divorce. There are support groups in hospitals and hospices and churches and even on meetup.com. Those are things that will help you find your way back to a really good place. So the reason to get into the groups, and I was actually just writing in my newsletter about this earlier, is because you start to learn what's happening for you by listening to other people and by talking about what's happening for you. And you can do that with a therapist, or you can get into a group and you can really start to feel the love in the group and open up to it and share your support of other people and your story. And that's a very, very validating thing to do. It's so validating, in fact, that you may never be the same again. Once you get into a group and you really get seen and witnessed, it's as if a whole part comes online in our psyche, which may not have really been awake or active for a long, long time. So that's points 4 and 5. 4 being get some help, and 5 being share what you discover with other people, because it becomes real and you become validated in this process. Let's see. Finally, meditation. Meditation, prayer, running, whatever it is for you. Some people are much more inclined to do this than other people. That's fine. somehow to turn off the brain that wants to fill our head with negativity, with story, with false belief. Emptying yourself out, doing yoga, doing meditative exercise practices, sitting in meditation, listening to guided visualizations. We're going to do one in just a minute for this reason. These all help bring your higher self and your higher wisdom and that longing in your soul that I was talking about earlier. It helps it come to life. It helps it become more active. Once that's really there, then you can begin to expand into what's possible and what you can really create. And ultimately, make loving yourself and giving yourself impeccable care the priority. So often when we're grieving, we still feel responsible for everybody else. We don't feel we deserve to take a break. We don't feel we deserve to stop and just, but we do. We really, really do. And not only do we deserve to stop, we deserve to love ourselves deeply and unconditionally and allow ourselves to just be imperfect and just be who we are in all of our messy glory. So those are my little 7 steps. And the unfolding will happen naturally. If you begin to put some of these pieces in place, even just some of them, you're going to find your way to a new sense of wholeness, a new sense of completeness, a new sense of strength. And it doesn't happen quickly, but it can happen with greater ease as you move along. Okay, so let's do a visualization right now, just for about 10 minutes, about the lesson behind your pain. Okay. I'm just taking a look at the comments. Oh, yeah, Joan, I'm not going to share what kind of 12-step groups I'm in, but I do advise you to go on and start looking for anything that might appeal to you. There are 12-step groups for people who have addicted parents, for people who feel they're codependent, for people who spend too much time with online gaming. And there's, you sort of pick a compulsive behavior. Yes, the 7 steps. I need that slide. I will create a document with that and I'll email it to everybody who registered for the webinar. Okay, that's good. Thanks. Really good suggestion, Susan. Thanks. So let's go into the visualization right now. And what I'm going to ask you to do is uncross your arms and legs and close your eyes. And just stop for a minute and take 3 deep grounding breaths. And as you release that last breath, allow yourself to relax your shoulders. Inhale and relax your jaw. Inhale and relax your belly and sink further down into the seat. Relax every part of your body and let all the tension just drain right down through your body, through the soles of your feet, down into the ground. Inhale and imagine a beautiful place, a place in nature where you really can tap into your inner knowing. Any place at all will be fine. Just relax and breathe into that place and allow it to come swimming up in your mind. And as you see this beautiful place and you see yourself in it, call in your guidance. Call in the spiritual entities, the loved ones of departed, pets, humans, whatever. Call them all in. Any kind of energy or being or entity or spirit that you feel drawn to, invite them in right now and allow them to join you. They are here in a beautiful circle of love all around you. And they're guiding you to the very best of their ability in a presence like a warm, soft, pink cloud of healing. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And as you sit with them, begin to ask them, what is it that you need to know right now? What is it that you need to know right now? Now, begin to envision your pain, the grief you're suffering. And if you can, invite it into the circle in some form. That grief, this pain, this experience, invite it into the circle in some form. And as you see this pain, put your hands on it. Feel it beneath your fingertips. Really feel it. And as you feel it with your heart. And let it begin to speak to you. Allow it to share with you the purpose of your pain. Allow it to share with you anything else you need to know right now. And now thank that pain. Thank it for its profound contribution to your life. This is a unique gift you've been given, and you can visit your pain in this quiet, beautiful place whenever you want, surrounded by your guides, just as you are now. You can tap in just as you need to. It's always here for you. So thanking your pain, begin to prepare to move back to where you began. And thanking your guides for joining you in this very brief moment of introspection. Your pain is here to teach you a wonderful lesson that only you can learn right now or as you move through life. It's all here for you. Simply have to be willing to receive. Taking a nice deep breath and another. And then moving your hands and moving your feet and becoming aware of the place you're sitting, and the chair you're sitting on. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. So, one of the things Teal shared, one of my very favorite quotes that she shared in one of her notebooks, was this: "You will be in your power when you're overtaken by the light and you can see everything as an opening to freedom." You will be in your power when you are overtaken by the light and you can see everything as an opening to freedom. That little phrase is the basis of exactly what we're doing. And really, I invite you to step into your power by seeing whatever you're going through as an opening to freedom. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to hear it on the chat. Do you know what that opening to freedom could be for you? I'm seeing Alex's question about discovering a core skill. I can't advise you on how to find the skill, but I can advise you that there is a lesson within the rock bottom. The rock bottom has the healing. And sometimes we have to really spiral down to the point where we can just truly let go. Yeah. Alex says she posted it by accident. But there are no accidents, my friend. At this point, I'd really like to share with you where I'm going with this work and invite you to come with me. I am going to be leading, starting December 10th, 2 calls, telephone calls, not webinars like this, but actual telephone calls a month, in which I facilitate you as a group in this process of returning to happiness, getting back to joy, getting out of your own way. And it's a healing process that we're all in together. And I'll be using a special phone interface so you can pair up with people on the call anonymously and share your feelings and thoughts in a way that's really, really effective and really wonderful. It might be that this is a great tool for you in terms of embracing that opening to freedom. Because what I know is, I can't promise you happiness, but I can create a really nurturing, really healing, really loving space. And I'm going to share a link right now, which will help you find your way to that. SuzanneFalter.com/back to joy. It's the Back to Joy Healing Circle. I'm making a special offer on it. If you sign up before Sunday night, you get a month free. And I've made it super affordable and hopefully accessible to many people. And I have a feeling in the beginning, this is going to be like a little private party. And it's so interesting because I love the way this program is developing. And, the call is really small and intimate today. We've got a group of people here who are really interested and really sharing a lot. And I think it's going to be like that. And I'm going to be sharing with you my insights as I go, as I find my own way back. And we're going to be taking these lessons and going deeper into the lesson behind the pain and figuring out how to move beyond it. So if that's appealing to you, take a look at that link I just posted, and join us. I'm really excited about what I feel is like finally I've got the work I've been looking for, in my not ready yet frustration for the last 2 years. And no drama, because it really showed up at the right time, and that is really sweet. Okay, Hillary says, opening to freedom right now is feeling what I'm feeling without judgment, embracing it all. Amen. Beautiful. And if anybody has any questions about the Back to Joy Healing Circle, please let me know. Basically, we'll be doing very much what we did here, but in greater community with more exercises, worksheets. I'll be leading a visualization on each call, a healing visualization. There will be ways to just get deeper and deeper into this process and get further and further into the beauty that is in the pain and embracing the pain in a way that is just pure and not forcing, allowing, not forcing. That is really, really great. Alex says, opening to freedom to empower others and create harmony in the world. Gorgeous. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, Hillary, it isn't always easy to do. owning your emotions it's hard work. It's rigorous, but you get the value from the really rigorous, challenging stuff. So I'm open to all questions. Anything anybody wants to ask in the last few minutes of this call about what I've been talking about, or about the Back to Joy Healing Circle. And I hope you'll consider coming with me, because I really believe and know in my heart that there is a place for us to heal. There is a way for us to come together and help each other on this path. And I do feel I've been given some really good specific tools. And let's see how that goes. Any other comments, questions? I love these comments you put up here. They're really, really just gorgeous. So I'm not seeing more questions, but there is a little delay, 30-second delay with the system I'm using here. So yeah, you can join and pay monthly. Absolutely, Argant. You can pay monthly, and that would be just fine. So either way, you can sign up per month, or you can sign up for a 4-month package, which is the one that has the free month attached to it. And, you know, find your way. I definitely recommend it. Thanks. And if anybody else listening to this who's not in the live chat, but you're in the recording, would like to ask me questions, please send them to Suzanne, Suzanne, at Suzanne Falter, FALTER.com. Hey, thank you. I got praise on the visualization. Great. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that the meditation opened up something for you, Kamala. And honestly, we did like a little mini meditation today. It was 10 minutes, and I'm hoping to do more like 20 on the Back to Joy Healing Circle calls, because I really feel it's there for me. Boy, this is absolutely that. Hillary says, I've been looking for a supportive place to continue my journey in connecting community. Perhaps this is the manifestation of that. I believe it is. We'll have a Facebook group. We will have 2 calls a month in which we will all connect with each other through this beautiful telephone interface I've got. And we will have an online learning area with lessons and recordings and links and so forth. And, you know, it's priced very affordably, so I really want to make it available to as many people as possible. And it will probably not be real big at first. I have a feeling this is going to grow over time, because it's my intention to really grow this. This is the work I'm meant to do, so Spirit will have a hand in these things. Yes, yes, yes. I think you were right for it, Kamala. All right. Wow, what a great call this has been. I'm so happy you've been on the call with me on this webinar, and you've been really sharing yourself so vulnerably. Thank you. Because that's what it takes. You know, just to get on a free webinar and say, I've been grieving my mother, or I feel like I'm weird, or, you know, how healing is this? This is what it's all about. This is why we need community. This is why the healing path requires other people. And the meditations, to me, are just a way to really bring us all in together, because I really see us all connected by the light when I lead the meditation, because we're all going on that plane together. Okay, I hope, Arganta, you can join us, and everybody else can. It's just been absolutely beautiful. Wonderful meeting you too. Thanks for being here. Namaste. That's all I can say. Thank you. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.